Welcome, everyone, to the Notre Dame Forum on Global Citizenship for Human Development. It is my great honor to introduce Reverend John I. Jenkins, CSC, who is the 17th president of our university. Father Jenkins is a very long-standing member of the Notre Dame community, holding bachelor's and master's degrees in philosophy from Notre Dame, and being ordained as the priest of the Congregation of Holy Cross in 1983. After earning a Master of Divinity and Licentiate in Sacred Theology from the Jesuit School of Theology and a Doctorate of Philosophy from Oxford University, Father Jenkins joined Notre Dame's philosophy faculty in 1990 and has won numerous teaching awards in his role as a faculty member. Father Jenkins has served as university president since 2005. His vision is for Notre Dame to be the Catholic research university for our time, an institution that engages in scholarship of the first rank while maintaining its distinctive Catholic character and excellence in undergraduate education. Understanding that globalization in its many facets, in markets and business, international politics, culture, and migration will shape the future, Father Jenkins has emphasized Notre Dame's international outlook in many ways. Two prominent examples are the establishment of the Notre Dame Initiative for Global Development in 2012 and the founding of the Keough School of Global Affairs in 2014, which is the university's first new school in almost a century. We look to Father Jenkins' continued leadership to maximize Notre Dame's global impact in teaching and learning, research and discovery, and in service to humanity. Father Jenkins.
Well, thank you, Lakshmi, and thank you all for being here tonight for this event. We're very excited to have our guest. This is part, as Lakshmi said, of the forum going global to understand our being global citizens, but due to our guest tonight, the particular importance of caring for those in greatest need. And so it's my true pleasure to introduce Professor Mohammed Yunus, who is a native of Bangladesh. We were just telling him about the Bengal bouts here at Notre Dame. He was educated at Dhaka University and Vanderbilt University before he returned to Bangladesh to serve as head of the economics department at Chittagong University. Always restless about the state of the poorest, he founded Grameen Bank to provide a way for the most vulnerable to save and invest and change the course of their lives. In 2006, Professor Yunus was recognized for his work with the Nobel Peace Prize. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2009 and the Congressional Gold Medal in 2013. While much of Professor Yunus's work focused on microcredit and micro savings, he has become interested in the power of social entrepreneurship in recent years. Professor Yunus teaches us that a new way of doing business is possible, one that leaves room for selflessness, for social concern, for mutual responsibility. Economic development must not come at the expense of human dignity and creativity. Professor Yunus, you honor us with your presence, and we would like to honor you with the Ford Family Notre Dame Award for International Development and Solidarity. And I would now like to invite my friend and brother in Holy Cross, Father Bob Dowd, Associate Professor of Political Science and Director of the Ford Program in Human Development, Studies and Solidarity, to present the award. Bob.
Thank you, Father John, and thank you all for being here tonight. It's just great to see you here. And thanks to Professor Yunus for bringing a little warm weather to us from Bangladesh. Almost 10 years ago, we launched the Ford Program in Human Development Studies and Solidarity, thanks to the generous gift provided by Doug and Kathy Ford and their family. As a program of the Kellogg Institute at the Keough School of Global Affairs, the Ford program is dedicated to research that amplifies the voices of the poor, and reveals the pathways by which they realize their potential. Our assumption is that research should serve, in fact, must serve, to humanize us all and to ultimately point toward how we might live in greater solidarity with one another. Doug and Kathy are here tonight with their sons, Matt and Kevin, their daughter-in-law, Syra, and their granddaughter, Tuesday, who is a first-year student here at Notre Dame. So Doug and Kathy and the rest of the Fords, would you mind standing up just so we can thank you? Thank you. The Ford program bestows the Ford Family Notre Dame Award on individuals or organizations that make substantial contributions to promoting human development, whether through research, practice, public service, or philanthropy. Of course, this year we're honored to bestow the award on Muhammad Yunus. Professor Yunus, we know that you have no need of awards. I hear you have plenty. And you're not interested in honors. We know that. But you honor us by allowing us to bestow this award on you and to uphold your example. Therefore, for promoting greater awareness of the inherent dignity and creativity of each and every human person, for showing that every social problem represents an opportunity for the creative capacity of human beings, for inspiring a new way of doing business, one that leaves room for selflessness and mutual responsibility, for helping us to understand that economic development need not come at the expense of human dignity or the integrity of creation. It's a great honor for the University of Notre Dame to bestow the Ford Family Notre Dame Award for International Development and Solidarity on Professor Muhammad Yunus of Dhaka, Bangladesh. Professor Yunus. Why don't you just stay right here? Yeah. There. I'll go down. Sorry, I gave the award and then I've taken it back, so we'll keep it safe for you for a little while. And at this point, I'd like to turn the program over to Ray Offenheiser, Director of the Notre Dame Initiative for Global Development in the Keough School of Global Affairs.
Well, good evening, everybody. We're delighted that you're all here. We're going to pretend that you are just a few close friends, and we're going to have a cordial conversation, and we hope you enjoy it. So with that, I want to just take an opportunity to also welcome Dr. Yunus to the university. This is his first time here, but he's not unfamiliar with Notre Dame, because in the heart of Dhaka, the capital of Bangladesh, is Notre Dame College and now Notre Dame University, and he has a long association with the Holy Cross Fathers that have been in residence in Bangladesh for many, many, many decades, and you find them all over the country and playing an extraordinarily important role in the country. So we welcome you.
Thank you.
To Notre Dame, and look forward to a rich conversation on your work and your journey in dealing with the poorest populations in the world. Maybe just to begin, I thought it might be useful just to review a little bit of your history, because you didn't start out your life really working on these issues. And I think, as Father Jenkins said, you did a PhD at Vanderbilt during the Bangladesh Liberation War. You went home right after the war. There were a series of famines during that period. It was a very traumatic time for the country. You ended up ultimately at Chittagong University as the chair of the economics department, where you actually started doing some experiments with some of the poor communities around the university. trying to actually see what you might be able to do to, using your economic skills, to actually advantage those populations. And I think it might be really interesting for people to hear, how did you move from being a traditional academic, like many of the people in the room here, to the work that you've ultimately been doing for the last number of years on behalf of these poor populations in your country and now globally, really?
Well, thank you. The circumstances that you described was awful. We were kind of going through euphoria that we became an independent country, and now we can do things in our own way, and we change everything. But actual situation went down. All the dreams started turning into nightmares. And I came back from the States in the middle of 1972. At the end of 1971, Bangladesh became independent. I was teaching in Tennessee State University. I quit and I said, I'm going back. But by 74, we had a terrible famine. You were there at that time. Then I raised the question, what good is economics that I teach? Because it doesn't solve the problem of the people around me. So I was totally disenchanted with the subject that I teach. And I thought these are all make-believe stories. Looks like elegant theories, but it's all make-believe things. In real life, it doesn't make any sense. So I was trying to see if, as a person, I can be of some use to people in the village next door to the campus. Trying to see if I make myself useful to people, at least one person a day kind of situation. I'm not getting a big, ambitious project or something. So among many things I did in villages, I felt happy that I'm useful to some people. I do some little things for them. But something became overriding interest for me because the loan sharking in the village. I heard about loan sharking, but I never saw loan sharking in such a close range, giving tiny loans and grab everything that the people have. And again, I look at what economics I learned in all the academic life that I've gone through. Not a paragraph about loan sharking in the entire economic subject. Even today, probably they don't have anything. And here I see people suffer from this loan sharking. And I feel terrible that I cannot do anything about it, and I've never learned anything about it, how to protect these people from the loan sharking system. So one idea came to me, why don't I lend money myself? If I lend the money, people will come to me, and whoever comes to me, he will not be victimized by the loan shark because I caught her or him before they got him. I said, this is a good way to do that. So I started lending money out of my own pocket and say, anybody needs money, come to me before you go to the loan sharks. And I had no idea whether people like it or not. And it became very popular. That's where the beginning of lending money to the people came. And gradually it became so big, and ultimately we turned into a bank. We started in 1976. We became a formal bank in 1983. Without knowing anything what banking is, we figured it out in our own way, in a kind of a common sense way to do things so that it will work for people. It's convenient for them, it's convenient for us, mutually doing that thing. That's how the whole thing began.
But I think many of us who are familiar with the bank from the moment you received the Nobel Prize, I think it's actually something that people do understand, but I think many people think it's actually, you're still a bank giving small loans to poor people, but actually the bank is much more than that today. It's almost, some people might even characterize it as a holding company with a lot of complexity to it, and because of the variety of enterprises that you've actually launched as a consequence of those early days and the experimentation that went on beyond that. I wonder if you could say a little bit about what the Grameen Bank and the Grameen Enterprises actually looks like today, because I think it would actually surprise a lot of our audience.
Well, the Grameen Bank is a bank which lends money to poor people without collateral, the basic feature there. Everything we do in Grameen Bank is almost the reverse of what conventional banks would do. Conventional banks will go to the rich and serve them. We go to the poor, we serve them. And our basic principle is people should not go to the bank. Bank should go to the people. So we go and serve the people at their doorstep. We have no collateral whatsoever. Conventional banks always ask for collateral and make sure that you have more than what you borrow from the bank. And here we are dealing with the poor people, so forget about the collateral. So it's a trust-based banking. This is what we did. And we added many other features into it. Savings is one. We created pension fund. We created insurance program so that we can protect them from the diseases and things like that. And along the way, we created many other companies. And since I became known as a kind of, or Grameen became known as my brand, so every company that I created, I gave a Grameen name. So there are many, many Grameen organizations, nearly 60 such businesses that we run in Bangladesh today with Grameen names. So people get confused that maybe these are organizations coming spin-off from the Grameen Bank itself. Grameen Bank is another just organization. They are not linked financially or management-wise with each other. Each one is an independent entity. So we have a whole conglomerate of organization. The reason we created those organizations is also very interesting. Probably we'll come to that discussion. Every time I saw a problem, and there are plenty of problems in Bangladesh, whenever I see a problem, I create a business to solve it. And that's the beginning of each business. If it's healthcare, I create a healthcare business. If it is energy, I create an energy company to solve their problem. If it is education, I create an education company to solve their problem. All this thing is done in a business way so that it becomes sustainable. But one big difference, it's not done to make profit for any individual. It's a business, covers its cost, and the owner of the business can take back the investment money, but nothing more than that. After that, whatever profit is made is plowed back into the business. Later on, we called it social business. That became a big issue today, asking or promoting this idea that this probably is a way how to solve the problem that we see around us.
So just for people who maybe, just the word Grameen, so just so you carry with you one little sort of bit of Bengali tonight, Grameen actually stands for village. So it's actually the village bank.
Yeah.
The principle being to be financing poor people at the village level.
Can I explain that? Because,
I hope you please do.
Yeah, that's the reason why we called it Grameen. Because I was very critical. As I was doing that, I came in conflict with the banking system. Many issues I raised against them and very nasty about them in my comments about them. I said, all the banks we see are based in the cities. They have nothing to do with the villages. Bangladesh is all about villages. 85% of the population of Bangladesh live in the villages. So city is a very small population compared to the rural people. So I thought that this 85% of the population are missed out from the banking system completely. So I said, when I created the bank, I said, this is the bank which will be working for the villages. Because I said, everything we do is the opposite of the conventional bank. This is the opposite of the conventional bank. They are the city bank. We became the rural bank, village bank. I called it Grameen Bank. And today, we are 41 years later. We have now 2,600 branches all over the country. Not a single branch, even today, is any city, any town, anywhere in Bangladesh. We're always in this village. That's where the name Grameen came about. It was a protest against the banking system.
So I was told not to ask you all softball questions. So I wanted to maybe ask one provocative question, which is there are skeptics about microfinance. And for example, at MIT, the Poverty Lab has actually done a variety of studies in which they would claim that microcredit has not necessarily had an impact on people's lives and on poverty more generally. And that's created a bit of an interesting controversy around this core issue of behind the bank and the whole microcredit movement. And I wonder if you could comment for us a little bit on how you see that debate and how you see impact at the village level.
I would say either we are blind, we don't see the things we do, or they are blind, they don't see what we do. So someone of us has to be blind to say that. Because as I was explaining Grameen Bank, today we have 9 million borrowers of Grameen Bank. And mostly women, 97% of this 9 million are women. That's what the Grameen Bank is all about. We always focused on women. In Bangladesh, lending money to a poor person itself is a kind of a shocking news. How do you do that? Lending money to poor. Poor mean extremely poor. So dirt poor. And you're lending money to poor people. And we go beyond that. We lend money to poor women, which you never heard that anybody can do that such a thing. And then now annually we lend out over $3 billion. Imagine these $3 billion going to this 9 million women, and they were using this money and paying you back penny by penny all the money nearly 100% repayment record. If you have 9 billion people handling this $3 billion and turning your back, something must be happening to these women. If you don't see that, you have to be really blind. And then they own the bank. It's not just bank lends the money. Grameen Bank is owned by the borrowers themselves. They sit in the board of the Grameen Bank. This is the most well-managed bank in the whole country. And they run this bank, women sitting on the board of this bank and running the bank, and then provide all the services. Today, again, it said $3 billion is lent out every year. What happened last year, you see, we started with savings program. Even if you are extremely poor, when you join Grameen Bank, you have to open a savings account with the bank. Whatever, even if you put a penny into the savings account, put a penny. But every week you must save something. So that's the tradition, that's the culture of Grameen Bank. Continue. Gradually, it's a small money, but when you do it with a large number of people, it becomes big. Last year, we had a very interesting result. They had more than $3 billion in their bank account than the loan that we gave. Their savings was bigger than the loan we gave them. I tell the bank official, I said, look, you don't refer to them as borrowers anymore because they are actually lenders. They gave you more money than you gave them. And there's a transformation. You see transformation in their life step by step. And Bangladesh has achieved all the Millennium Development, at least 6 of them within time and 2 of them later on, Millennium Development Goal. But they achieved the Millennium Development Goal number 1, to reduce poverty by half by 2015. Actually, Bangladesh achieved that by the middle of 2013, 2.5 years before that date came. So all this transformation and all the healthcare indicators of Bangladesh, now moving from the bottom of all the regional countries, 8 countries in the region, India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Nepal, and all that, we were at the bottom on the healthcare situation 30 years back. Today, we are at the top of the healthcare system in the whole region. All these things happening, and still you don't see anything happening to the poor people. You have to be really blind. I can't say anything else.
One other controversy around the that's arisen in recent years in the microfinance sector has been cases where there have been founders of microcredit enterprises that have actually taken them public and sold shares in equity markets, making millions of dollars for the founders, which created quite a, as you know, bit of a firestorm in our community in debating these issues. And I wonder, what was your response to that, and what's your view of that particular phenomenon within the microfinance movement?
Yeah. Before I take that, I go back to the previous one. We run Grameen program in the United States. We started in 2008 and with the first branch in New York City called Grameen America. In Jackson Heights, that's our first branch. Now today, after 10 years, we have 20 branches all over the United States in 12 cities. Omaha, Nebraska, Charlotte, North Carolina, Indianapolis, right here in Indiana, 7 branches in New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and so on. In all, 20 branches. Together, we have over 100,000 borrowers in all these 20 branches. All women, 100% women. Startup loan is $1,500. In total, over 10 years, we have given over $1 billion loan with perfect repayment. Not a single branch has any difficulty in getting 100% repayment from all these borrowers. Taking $1 billion loan and starting their own businesses, and if you say that nothing happened to the poor women, or in Bangladesh, or in United States, I can't understand what kind of research people do anyway. So this is kind of raises a lot of shocking feeling that the kind of thing we hear that goes in the name of research. Coming to yes, I keep telling that there is a right microcredit and there's a wrong microcredit. When microcredit word became popular, some guys wanted to make money out of it. So this is an opportunity to make money out of the poor people. I said, we created microcredit not to make money out of the poor people. We created it to help poor people get out of poverty. That was our intention. And that's what we devoted ourselves. Those who use this for completely other purpose, abuse the whole concept, we don't think they should call themselves microcredit, but they do. They call themselves microcredit, and then they want to make money. Then I kept saying, referring to them, saying that there's a right microcredit, there's a wrong microcredit. And these are the examples of the wrong microcredit when you do the IPO. Like Compartamos in Mexico is a famous one. I have been writing op-eds in the New York Times about how bad these people are, saying that these are not microcredit. They're abusing the word microcredit. Same thing happened in India, SKS in Andhra Pradesh. They went for IPO. The IPO is the one that you know right away. Their interest is completely different than the whole thing is. We were fighting the loan sharks. I gave you the story how we began. Our whole thing was to protect people from the loan shark. The unfortunate thing is, what we created, now some people using these tools, using this methodology to turn themselves into loan sharks. So that is the unfortunate part of it. So this is what we mentioned. No way they come anywhere near what we call the right microcredit.
So in a lot of your recent writing, you've returned a bit to being an economist, but being in some ways a critic of classical economics. And when you talk about the poor, you're using terms like the victims of social exclusion, financial apartheid. You've talked more and more frequently about inequality as a very serious challenge, and in terms of the dynamics, the internal kind of workings of globalization and the international economic order. I wonder if you could sort of take us a little bit on that journey, kind of where you've come as a consequence of your early days as an economist, your practical work with the bank, and now sort of challenging sort of a lot of the kind of premises of the whole process of globalization.
Yeah, I'm smiling because you have a whole list of issues for me to answer. I'll do that. One of the things I keep reminding people that financial services to people is like oxygen. If you don't have oxygen in the room, we cannot breathe, we collapse, we cannot function, we become dysfunctional. That's what happens when you don't have the financial oxygen, which is the financial services to the people. If you don't have connection with the financial services, people cannot breathe, people cannot function, they become dysfunctional. Then we call them poor people. It's not because something wrong with their bodies, simply we didn't have the oxygen among them. The moment you connect them with the financial oxygen, they become alive, they become active, they become productive, they become creative, everything happens. So that's why I'm saying that financial institutions that we built never paid attention to that. Half the population of the entire world has nothing to do with the banking system. They are victims of the loan shark, they pay the lenders, pawn shops, you name it. Everywhere, every city, every town, every village has that. And nobody pays any attention to it. All the explanation was they are not creditworthy. And I have been always saying, should banks tell people that they are not creditworthy? Or the people should tell the banks that they are not people-worthy? This is the real issue, that you don't know, you're not even interested in doing that. So I become very critical of the way financial system has been designed. I keep saying that poverty is not created by the poor people. Poverty is created by the system that we built. So if you want to overcome poverty, it's not about you go to the poor people, help them. That's not the way to solve poverty. Fix the system. Everybody will come out of poverty by their own. There's nothing wrong with the poor people. I keep saying that poor people are like bonsai tree. You take the seed, best seed of a tallest tree in the forest, put it in a flower pot, let it grow. It grows only this big. It doesn't grow more than that. We call it a bonsai. I said, what's wrong with this tree? Why didn't it grow as big as the other tree? Simple explanation. We only gave it a flower pot. Didn't give the base on which to grow. I said, poor people are bonsai people. There's nothing wrong with their seed. Simply, society never gave them the space to grow as big as everybody else. That's the only problem. So we have to fix the system. That's how your system comes in. I said not only financial system is one part of it. The very basis of the theory itself is wrong, because that whole capitalist theory is based on one simple conception or interpretation of human being. A human being is driven by self-interest. I said, no matter what you say about the human being as driven by self-interest, you're not looking at the right human, the real human being. Real human beings are not selfish. Real human being is selfish and selfless. But your theory has completely isolated selfless part of human being, concentrated only on the selfish human being. As a result, we created a selfish world. We see only ourselves. We don't see anybody else. I said, theory has put on a glass on us, and we teachers, we academic institutions kind of help them to build these glasses into their eyes with dollar signs. We see the world with a dollar sign. I said, all I'm saying, why don't we have a bifocal glasses? We have dollar signs, fine, which we see ourselves. Only thing we would know about ourselves. We do things for ourselves. We make money, create all the wealth possible. But at the same time, we can see the world. This is within us. And then on the basis of that, we create a different kind of business to solve problems. That's what we call social business. And they go together. Once you do that, suddenly all the problems come in a different way. Today, because of selfish direction of the entire economy, we have created an enormous problem of wealth concentration. 1% of the population of the entire world own more than 99% of the wealth of the entire world. What kind of system is that? You call it a system? It's a mockery of a system. But we go on singing songs about that system. I said, and that is getting worse and worse, more and more concentration every day. What will happen tomorrow? And I keep saying it's a ticking time bomb. It will explode anytime unless we do something about it. All the wealth of the world is just sucked up and sent up, and people have no idea. 99% of the people of the population owning 1% of the wealth of the world. What kind of system that we created and we feel so proud of the beautiful system we've built. Is this a beautiful system? So we have to undo that system so that wealth doesn't go upwards, it comes downwards, be shared with everybody else. That's what I was suggesting, that once you interpret human being as a different way, saying that he's selfish and selfless at the same time, suddenly the entire thing changes, because then we have two kinds of business. Everybody can do both kinds of businesses, selfish business and selfless business. And selfish business, we all know, that's what we do. That's what the stock market is all about. We glued to the stock market returns. Am I making money? Am I getting rich tonight? In the wake up and I'm a big rich person. You do that. But at the same time, you can also change the world by addressing every single problem that you have in the world by creating social businesses. And then you have two kinds of business. In social business, there is no wealth concentration because I'm not taking any profit out of that business. So there is no concentration, and I can solve the problems in that way. So these are the issues that I keep raising, challenging, that we have to pay attention. Our young people should get ready, grow up with the knowledge that there are two kinds of business. And young people should decide which business they will start with. Should they start with doing the money-making business, or should they start with social business to solve problems? They have enormous creative capacity. Should they use this creative capacity to enrich themselves personally, or should they use it to change the problem that they see around them so that they can solve these problems by creating businesses on that? Traditionally, problems are to be solved by the charity. One thing I keep reminding, charity is a wonderful idea, but it has a serious limitation. Charity money goes out, does a wonderful work, but the money doesn't come back. You have only one-time use of your money. The moment you use the objective of charity, same objective, put a business engine behind it, and we call it social business, and suddenly money goes out, does the job, and it comes back. Then you have unlimited use of the same money, and it becomes very powerful money. And that's what I'm inviting, that you use your creative power to come up with those basic ideas and make it happen. And suddenly you see, you can create the world that you want. And you become party to making that happen, rather than say, I'm making money, I don't care what happens to the other people.
You know, Yunus, one of the things that I think has been really interesting in your writing has been, as you started to talk about these ideas in very public ways, you've actually had a lot of success in having private sector firms, Danone being one, Veolia being another, but there's many others, that have actually joined you on all sorts of ventures where there's been very interesting kinds of financing and financial tools and kind of different kinds of incentives that have been a part of these deals. I wonder if you could say a little bit about some of those examples.
Yeah, I did the social business in Bangladesh and talking about it. Many other people became interested. But what surprising thing was, big businesses became interested. And when dealing with them, I see no matter how big the company is, a global company, but it's run by people like you and me. They have the same worries, same problem. They have to answer the same question from their children. What are you doing with your company? Is it helping people, or you're just sucking up money from the people? That's all you do. So they have the same questions. So one of those person who's becoming very interested in our work approached me from Danone. He's the chairman of Danone, Frank Griveau. He said, I want to do social business with you. Tell me how to do that. So that was the beginning, and we created a company in Bangladesh to solve the problem of malnutrition. Every social business has to start with a problem. Whatever problem you find it, design a business to solve that problem. And we chose the problem of malnutrition. The solution was we created the company to produce a special kind of fortified yogurt. We put all the micronutrients which are missing in the children into the yogurt and made it delicious, because Danone knows how to make yogurt delicious. That's the technology they know. So they make it very delicious. Children love it, and make it very cheap, because once you are producing, once you are a social business company, you don't need any frills anymore. You don't want to fool anybody. You want to just give the basic thing and charge the cost, and try to make it as cheap as possible, as low cost as possible in producing things so that poor people can afford to buy it. And that's what we did. And it is spread now. Grameen Danone, is many other companies. One company particularly is very enthusiastic about it. It's McCain. McCain is a Canadian company. I had no idea who they are. So when they approached me, they're following me everywhere. They want to get involved with social business. I was not paying attention to them because I don't know who they are. So I asked them, what do you do? What's your business? The guy felt a little bit humiliated because I don't know about their company. He said, do you like French fry? I said, yes, I like French fry. Next time you eat French fry anywhere in the world, remember, it may be McCain French fry. I said, oh my God, you're big. He said, yes, we are big. 60% of the French fry business we control. And all the French fry you eat, so all the fast food chain anywhere in the world is a McCain French fry. And that's what we do. I said, okay, now let's talk. So we became very good friends, and they were very enthusiastic. First social business we created in Colombia, called it Campo Vivo. And it became very successful social business to solve the problem of extremely poor farm workers. Give them the land so that they can produce their own and sell it in international market. We provided everything to the company. They got so absorbed with this idea, they started this business in France. In France, they buy lots of potato grown in France. And 20% of the potato grown in France are thrown away. It's never used, because the machines machines which produce a French fry, they need a special kind of shape of the potato. If the shape is not right, it's not efficient potato that gives you lots of French fries. So they don't buy. If they don't buy, farmers can't sell. So 20% is thrown away. Now that they become involved in social business, they suddenly start noticing that why are we throwing this potato out? Why don't we buy them back? So they created a separate company, Bien is a company name, and started buying up all these throwaway potatoes. What do? They make potato soup. For the first time, they realized that potato don't have to be French fry all the time. Potato soup is a good soup. And it became a very famous soup in France right now. And many French chefs came up with a special potato soup recipe for social business potato soup. And then they noticed that 30% of the vegetables grown in all over Europe, 30% of the vegetables, all kinds of vegetables, are thrown away. They are known in the business ugly vegetables, meaning that a cucumber which is fat on one end, thin on another end, nobody buys it from supermarket. In supermarket, everything has to be in military formation. Same size, same shape, same color, etc., etc. So any, any vegetable which is deviated from the standard shape is thrown away, and it's known as ugly vegetable. You never find a crooked banana in a grocery shop because it's thrown away already. It's there, but it's thrown away. So they never realized that this is a waste of food, tremendous amount of food. Then they started, after doing the potato, they started buying all the throwaway vegetables, ugly vegetables. What they do, they chop them up and put in a nice little package, call them ready-to-cook vegetables. Suddenly they became good food. Everybody's buying it, it's cheap and fresh food. And then they started using vegetables into vegetable soup. So now they are very happy. I said, how come you didn't see it all this time? They said, because we are having all the dollar sign glasses on us. We didn't see anything else. Now that you put a bifocal, we see this everything. We see which we never saw. That's the thing, that we never saw those kind of things. It's nothing earth-shattering thing. Any one of us can create a business to take 5 unemployed young people out of unemployment just by creating a business. A self-sustaining business. Only thing I created just to make sure 5 unemployed people can work, have a decent salary for them, same wages for them, and it runs a business, a sustainable business. I get my money back, and then all the profit is plowed back into the business. I can have a 6th employee into that. Anybody can do that, but we don't do that because that's not how we are trained in our schools. We are always told you have to make money, and we are busy making money. We can take 5 welfare people out of welfare anytime we want and give them an exciting life for them by creating social business. If we know how to take 5 welfare people out of welfare, we can do it 5 million welfare people out of welfare. Same thing, like we did the microcredit. We started with 5 or 10, and now it's millions and millions all over the world. So this is the direction with cities. It's all question of what we think, what we are taught in our classes, how our young people are trained to think. And that's what makes the world that we live in.
So I want to allow time because we have some students here who want to or have some questions for you. But before maybe we transition, I wonder if you could answer one last question, because I think this audience would be very interested in hearing it. I know that you've had an opportunity to interact with Pope Francis, and he actually invited you to suggest some ideas about what the church could be doing to be more active in addressing global poverty issues. And I know you wrote a lengthy document for him, and he reviewed it carefully, translated it into Italian. It was published in the Vatican newspaper. I wonder if you could just summarize a little bit some of the points that you shared with him. And I know you didn't pull any punches either.
Yeah, so. I don't think I should discuss this in public. This is something mutual, and we do that. But I should mention something before we conclude about the young people again. Faced within Grameen Bank. We made sure all the children of Grameen families go to school because their parents never went to school. They're all illiterate. All our borrowers are illiterate. But we wanted to make sure illiteracy stops at the parents' generation. The children do not repeat that. History will stop here. And we really stopped the history for them. So the second generation became active, and we sent them to school. We gave them education loan so that they can go to any higher education as high as they can go. Money is not their limitation because Grameen Bank gives them the education loan. So we have lots of young engineers, doctors, graduates, masters, and so on and so forth. Then the problem began. They have no jobs. Bangladesh doesn't have any job. So they keep saying, why did you send us to school? Because we have no job. Then I started challenging them. Why are you looking for a job? Who told you to have a job? Did your book tell you to have a job? Did your teacher tell you to have a job? Forget it. This is old-fashioned idea. Job is an obsolete idea. Don't even think about a job. They get very puzzled. What do we do? I said, you go every day, every morning you wake up, you repeat to yourself, I'm not a job seeker, I'm a job creator. And think like a job creator. Behave like a job creator. They said, how do we do that? You start a business. How do we start a business? Nobody told us anything to do with the business. We have never learned anything about business. We are only thing learned about books, what the history, geography, etc., nothing about business. We can't start a business. I said, shame on you, because your mother joined Grameen Bank some 30 years back, started $20 loan, started a business. And ever since, she's paying it back and taking next loan and next loan. That's where you're born. Now you went to school, you have all the education, you're telling me You don't know how to start a business. Your illiterate mother could start a business with a $20 loan. And with all your education, you can't do that. You know why? Because your mother is a natural human being. She knew what this is all about. She didn't have to worry about whether somebody teach her to start a business. She knew how exactly to do that. So she's an entrepreneur. Natural human being is always an entrepreneur. Your education system has eliminated everything about your creativity and so on and so forth, turned into a product so that you can fit into somebody's office as a slot, in a little slot. I said, human being is all about being creative, being a problem solver. But education system has taken it away, created you to do the thing that fits into a little slot. I said, you go back to your mother now, try to learn from her, forget about all the education that you had, so that you can turn into a natural human being and become an entrepreneur yourself. So what we do, we created a social business venture capital fund and ask all the young people, come with business idea, we invest in your business. We become your partner. And people love that, young people love that. They come with business plan after business plan. In every month, we get now at the rate of 2,000 per month that young people get invested in their projects. Our basic principle is nobody's rejected. No matter what plan you come, we work with you, improve your plan, so that ultimately you get the money, investment. So there's no rejection part of it. And then nobody is abandoned. Even if your business fails, we'll not abandon you. We'll continue to work with you until you're successful and make sure we want to do that. Now thousands of young people do that. So I keep saying that human beings are entrepreneurs, but our education system made them into a wrong direction, telling them that you have to find a job. We even pride ourselves in education institution that we are making our young people job ready. I said, that's a shameful word, job ready. It's just some kind of fodder you're putting in. It's not an army that you're producing, it's a battle-ready people. We are not fighting a battle for somebody. We are creative people, and we should be preparing not the job-ready young people, with the life-ready young people, so that we know what the life is all about, what we want to do about the life. That's the direction which. So that's another issue that we keep saying that basically human beings are entrepreneurs. I keep reminding the young people, I said, when we're in the caves, we're not sending job applications to anybody. We went ahead and get things done. That's what we are. That's our history. That's in our DNA. And that's where we are. Now, economic theory has convinced you that you are only destiny that you have to work for somebody else. I said, if you work for somebody else, you have surrendered all your creative capacity. And that's not the direction that we wanted to go. So I think that's one lesson that we should be taking very seriously.
I think that's a great final message. And I just want, on behalf of, I think, all of us here who've admired your work from a distance, to thank you for the gift I think you've given all of us, and literally millions and millions of people around the world, in sort of addressing these core issues of poverty, but also, I think, bringing to these kinds of conversations about globalization, about market economies, about development more generally, a seriousness, a sense of principle, morals, and values that oftentimes aren't in these conversations, and challenging us about market failure and about issues like financial apartheid, and social exclusion, which is really in some ways what the poverty issue is really all about. So I want to, on behalf of all of us here, thank you for that great gift. And now I want to actually turn it back over to Lakshmi and our students, who I think have a few more questions for you. So Lakshmi, can you join us on the stage? And
So I would like our students to join us on stage here. So for people who were not aware of this, we actually had an essay contest where students were invited to send in essays on what global citizenship means for them. And we had quite a large number of entries, and it was 4 students have been selected on the basis of their essays to have the privilege of posing the first few questions to Dr. Yunus. So if you would please come on stage, I will introduce briefly our essay contest winners. So please come there. on the at the very extreme end there, we have Alison O'Neill. Alison is a sophomore from California, and she is studying history, political science, and environmental science here at Notre Dame. She's passionate about writing and international issues, and she serves as the associate editor of the Scholastic magazine and a tutor at the Center for Social Concerns, among many other activities on campus. Next to her is Pete Freeman. He is a senior studying sociology, gender studies, and international peace studies. He has been researching the social and gender determinants of adolescent sexual health in Ghana, and in fact has also worked extensively with the government of Ghana to measure and evaluate health interventions in that country's central region. Next to Pete, we have Nabila Murad. She is a junior majoring in political science and Arabic with a minor in peace studies. Nabila is truly a global citizen just by background. She is of Palestinian and Lebanese descent. She grew up in Brazil. She is studying here in the United States. And last fall, she was in London for a study abroad semester. So she's also involved with student government and the research apprenticeship program in the political science department at Notre Dame. And last but not the least, of course, we have Victoria Garcia. She is local. She grew up in Mishawaka. She's a junior, majoring in sociology and minoring in teaching English to speakers of other languages. Currently, she is researching the historical roots of human trafficking as an international scholars program with the Kellogg Institute for International Studies. And she has also interned at an anti-trafficking social enterprise. And in an effort to bring this issue, to raise awareness about human trafficking for young adults and to inspire them to action, she has also started a podcast which is by and for young adults called The Trafficking Dispatch. So we have here a group of extremely talented and creative young people. Please welcome them.
Very good.
So I'll let Victoria have the first question, and then we'll have a chance for Dr. Yunus to answer, and then we'll go down the line.
Thank you again, Dr. Yunus,
Thank
for being
you.
here, and congratulations on your award. I have a two-part question for you. So, as it was mentioned, I am an anti-human trafficking podcaster, and I often wonder how I can measure the impact of the podcast from looking at concrete numbers like audience size to more abstract forms of measurement. And I'm sure that others in the audience tonight also wonder how they can measure the impact of their own work. So my first question is, what are your suggestions for evaluating and measuring the influence of your work so that you can ensure you are helping to bring about sustainable change? And secondly, considering that most people want to do good, what are the common mistakes made and possible ethical blind spots when striving for this goal?
Well, the first one, as we define social business, if I answer your question from my perspective, social business is about solving problems. So you define a problem. For example, I was giving offhand about taking 5 welfare people out of welfare. That's my objective. If I succeed in getting these 5 welfare people out of welfare, that's the impact that I've done it. So I've succeeded in getting them done. I don't need any other study to do. Other studies can be done by other people, whether they have done it, they're improving life faster than anything else, or whatever the study they want to make. The first challenge was, can I attract 5 welfare people to get out of welfare so that they can have their own life of their own. That's the thing. So every one of them, as either a healthcare issue, like we have cataract operation, for example, that's one of our social business. How many cataract operations we have done, how many poor people are among them, that's a one, X percentage of all the cataract patients we have to adopt among the poor people. So this is our one. About the ethical issues and so on, and that's where I was raising a fundamental question, who are we? Are we supposed to wear the dollar glasses and that's what we are and the rest of the life? Or we as a human being, that we have empathy, we want to share life with others, we are sharing and caring people, we participate in it. And these are the issues that anyone should be asking themselves, am I doing that? And I keep telling about we can do both at the same time. You don't have to abandon one for the other if you want to. But if you want to do one of them, it also can be done. Or you can say, first part of my life I'll do this, second part of my life I'll do that. That's also possible. And I keep reminding that life can be divided into two phases, phase 1 of my life and phase 2 of my life. In phase 1, I try to take care of my family, whatever obligations I have and so on. And I define by which age I want to end my phase 1, done, complete. And after that, I'm free. All I have to do now, do what I'm supposed to be doing as a human being for the rest of the world. I don't worry about me and my family or anybody anymore because I've done that in phase 1. So you can draw your line, whether when you are 35, your first phase is over, you move on to the second phase, or 40 or 45, whatever it is. So that's another way to do. You have to have a basic purpose of your life. That's the basic question. What is it I'm here for? I'll be here for a very short period. And within this period, what is it that I want to accomplish for myself? I want to feel as a human being, I was on this planet for this period, and this is what I've done. And that's what the purpose of my life. Then you achieve that. So this is what I would define that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yunus, for being with us tonight. I come from Brazil, a region that has made international headlines in the past few years for large public scandals and endemic corruption. Between these scandals, high poverty rates, and soaring inequality, it is not surprising that Brazilian society as a whole has developed trust issues with many institutions that are vital in both public and private decision-making. In light of such mistrust, how does one build true change to create a more equitable society? Should these changes strictly come from grassroots movements, a restructuring of top-level institutions, or a combination of both?
Very big questions. With the existing economic system, the capitalist system, there is no chance whatsoever that you can have an equitable society. Because as I was explaining, this whole thing is a machine which sucks up wealth and pushes it in the top in the hands of few people. You have heard during the last US presidential election, repeatedly, 1% of 1/10 of 1% of US population owns more than 50% of the wealth of this nation. So this is this country. And the same thing goes in any country. Brazil is probably worse and so on. Wealth is concentrated in absolutely fewer hands. If you look at globally, is globally maybe half a dozen countries. Half a dozen countries own more than 99% of the wealth of the entire world. So the rest of the countries have to share this remaining 1% of the wealth. And it's not because these are criminal people, they're monsters. No, they're very good people. We know them. Like Oxfam report says, 8 people in the whole world today own more wealth than the bottom 50% of the population of the world today. This is Oxfam report. And we know all these 8 people. We would like to take selfie with them. They're nice people, good people. So it's not the fault of these people. It's a system, the way it works, and they become, as we discussed, they become more wealthy. This is the direction. So there's no chance, no way you can do that. So you have to go back to see what kind of system it would be so that we can share wealth mutually. It's not something naturally running away from me. I work hard, but I don't get anything. That's not it. And about the trust, the entire system that we built, as I was explaining Grameen Bank when Ray was asking a question, is based on trust. In the Grameen Bank, the whole bank, which gives $3 billion a year as a loan, giving out and getting it back with interest, and runs the whole bank and makes it profit. Profit goes back to the borrowers because they are the shareholders of the bank. There is no lawyer in the bank. We are the only bank in the whole world which is lawyer-free because it's based on trust. And people get worried. You give $3 billion, no lawyer? I said, no lawyer. Why are you worried about it? Because if they don't pay, I said, they have been paying for 41 years. Why should I worry about it at this time? So this is the kind of thing. We create a system which is taking people away from something which is more concrete rather than papers and things. So trust completely disappeared. And then you have the corruption, what now Brazil is going through. Many countries, Brazil is just in the news right now. There's enormous amount of corruption. Corruption which is visible corruption, invisible corruption. In the name of business, you corrupt. In the name of banking, you take money away from it. Many other ways you do that. So this is the kind of thing. So we have to find out, as a young people, this is your challenge now, to design a world where you don't have to go through the same system that we have gone through. So that's the challenge that we have. And I keep saying that we have to make sure that we come to a stage where we can say goodbye to this civilization that we are passing through, greed-based civilization. And from greed-based civilization, we create a new civilization. Civilization is based on empathy and fellow feeling and friendship and so on. It's possible. It's not just a pipe dream. It's a question of if I believe in it, you believe in it, it will happen. It's not just the politicians will make it happen, not the government will keep it happen. We individuals make it happen because we believe in it and make it happen. So that's the direction we have to find. Thank you.
Pete.
Dr. Yunus, thank you for sharing your ideas with us tonight. This truly is an honor. In my almost 4 years of listening, observing, and working in family health in Cape Coast, Ghana, I've experienced firsthand many mother entrepreneurs applying for microcredit. And I'd like to ask you a two-part question about challenges facing microlending. First, I've watched borrowers practice consumption smoothing insofar as applying for loans, maybe under the auspices of starting a business, but then spending that capital on large expenditures, maybe funerals or weddings. How has Grameen approached screening and evaluating borrowers to minimize this type of spending, which is inevitably tied to indebtedness? And second, 94% of Grameen is owned by its borrowers. So how has Grameen balanced its borrower-owned ethos with maintaining borrower accountability and maintaining Grameen's organizational structure?
Yeah. Well, it's very detailed steps that we have. The whole Grameen system works on 5 women get together, form a group, and they become the core of our all activities. Because when one of the person among the 5 wants to take a loan, she doesn't come to the bank, she goes to her group. She explains why she needs the money, how much money she needs, to the rest of the 4 friends she has in the group. Because they have to approve her loan. If they don't approve, bank will not give you a penny. So you have to convince them that this is a good idea and the money she's asking is not something beyond her capacity and so on and so forth. Once they agree, then they pass it on to a bigger group called Center, which is about 50 or 60 women get together, which have a weekly meeting every week together. So they have to approve that too, endorse that, yes, we approve that. Then bank gives the money. So responsibility has been distributed in a way, it's not just, I take the money, I pay you back, I do it whatever I want. It's not like that. So you remain responsible to your community, what you're doing with the money and so on, so that they do that. Through their own activities, in the very early years, we developed something called 16 decisions. This is about their life, what they want to do with their life, and so on. It's a very elaborate system, how they developed that. This is their decision, not bank's decision. This is known as 16 decision. Like we should send our children to school, make sure they stay in school. This is their decision. We shall not take any dowry at the time of the marriage of our sons. We shall not give any dowry at the time of the marriage of our daughters. Dowry is such a curse in Bangladesh. It destroys all the poor families. Because if you have to marry off your daughter, you have to sell everything to give dowry to the prospective husband and their families. And we have discussed with them days and days on to see why do we have to practice that. This is not part of any religion. So you don't have to worry about God will be unhappy with you. There's nothing about it. Where did it come from? It's just practice. You do it because you think it's a social obligation. The social obligation is what I want and you want. That's our social obligation. Not what somebody else is doing it. That's not our social obligation. So we figure out what's our obligation. I said the very simple thing that we discussed with them. If we don't take dowry at the time of the marriage of our sons, we don't have to give dowry at the time of the marriage of our daughters. When I'm a mother of a daughter, I'm a mother of a son. When I want to get a bride for my son, I want biggest money possible from the other side. I get very greedy. But the moment I have to worry about my daughter, I'm in all tears. I don't know how to find the money. I said, we created the problem ourselves. As a mother, if I don't take, I don't have to give. So as a community, if we don't take, we don't give. That's all. And that gradually Grameen Bank became dowry-free community. You don't take dowry because this is our custom now. So this is how you built it inside. It's not something coming from outside. You go to the 16 decisions, many of them just health-related issues. Like we grow vegetable all year round and make sure our children eat vegetables. This came because one of the problems, Ray may remember it well, at those days in the 70s, night blindness. It's a common disease in every poor family. Children cannot see at night because they have night blindness. I discussed with the professionals that what is this problem? They said this is vitamin A deficiency. If you give them vitamin A, they will be okay, they will be seeing, their eyes will be all right. Or if they eat vegetables have lots of vitamin A, they'll be okay. So I took the vegetable option and started selling vegetable seeds so that they can grow vegetables. And gradually our seed business started growing. It became very popular. People started eating vegetables and feeding vegetables. As our seed business, as we grow bigger and bigger, Grameen Bank, our seed business become bigger and bigger too, because we are selling vegetable seeds to borrowers and also the non-borrowers in the villages. And by the time, at one time we became the largest vegetable seed seller in the whole country, because it's such a popular business, we hit into it's a social business. And by that time, night blindness disappeared from the whole country. Possible. So it's a question of how you address those things. You don't wait for somebody, government has to do it. Yes, of course we'll pressure the government, but that doesn't mean we'll sit there and watch government fail. We citizens are more creative than the government, and that's what we're all about. So all these responsibilities that we are talking about, so it has to be built in not by imposition, by discussion, by making that clear. It's a common thing that you go anywhere in Bangladesh, you find one Grameen Bank borrower. You ask, do you know 16 decision? She says, yes. Tell me this decision number 14. She said, this is decision number 14. So it became part of her life. We even challenged them because they cannot read and write. You remember that. Memorizing all these 16 decisions for them is not easy because there's nothing written on paper. So you have to listen to somebody and you have to remember by listening to other people. And to test them, that whether you remember all those 16 decisions, one of the tests we will say, okay, you can tell me 1 through 16. Can you do it 16 through 1? Then she goes 16, decision number 16 is this, decision number 15 is this, decision number 15 goes, blah, 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 blah. Give me decision number 9 immediately, decision number 9 is this. It becomes part of her thinking process because she's a literate person. She cannot handle many things, but she can handle it. So she organizes her life accordingly because this decision came from their discussion, not our discussion. And we only simply popularize them because this is the decision you took and this is it. So this is how it can be done. It's not something that you wait for somebody else to do it. We do it ourselves. Thank you.
Yeah. Alison?
Firstly, Dr. Yunus, thank you for your talk. It is a real honor to be here. Grameen Bank's website mentions that economic development is more likely to occur when microloans are given to women, presumably because women use the money effectively to develop the business and are more likely to spend their earnings on education or on their children. I have two related questions. A, what are the other social factors that influence the likelihood of economic development? And B, is economic development through microfinance more likely to occur among some populations and not others?
The one that about the women. First, it began as a kind of a big fight with the banks in Bangladesh. As I was doing it, I was fighting the banking community in Bangladesh. I was saying, whole banking is wrong. You have designed a system which doesn't work for people. And I was saying, banks are supposed to lend money to people, but you do it in such a funny way, such a strange way. You lend money to people who already have lots of money. You don't lend money to people who don't have money. I said, logical thing would have been the other way. You start lending money to people who don't have money, and then gradually go to the people who have money. Of course, they laugh at it. So. And then I said, not only you don't lend money to poor people, you don't lend money to any woman, even if she's the richest woman in the country. You don't do that. They have said, no, this is not true. It's absolutely wrong. I said, this is true. Your figures tell me in your records that not even 1% of all the borrowers of all the banks put together in Bangladesh happen to be women. Not even 1%. I said they're 50% of the population, but not even 1% is your borrower. Something is wrong. And I said, if the rich woman bring a beautiful business plan to a bank manager will flip through the pages of the report and say, have you discussed with your husband? And if you say, yes, I've discussed with my husband. I said, why didn't you bring him along next Monday so that we can discuss? I said, has it ever happened to any bank anywhere in Bangladesh that a man brought the proposal and the manager asking him, have you discussed it with your wife? Why didn't you bring your wife along so that we can discuss? I said, that's where you go wrong. And that's why you don't have them. So we focused, we said, when I began, I wanted to make sure half the borrowers in my program must be women. It was an uphill task. Women said, don't give it to me. I don't know how to use the money. I'm afraid of money. I never touched money in my life. I'm afraid of money. Give it to my husband. So this is the usual thing. My students who were working with me to talk to the women, they said, why are we forcing them? I said, no, we are not forcing them. I said, always remember when she says, I never touched money in my life, I'm afraid of money, and all these answers. You remember, this is not her voice. This is the voice of the history which created her. History has created layers of fear around her ever since she was born. The fact that she was born as a woman is the biggest crime she has ever committed, because her family hates it that she is a girl, not a boy. They're expecting a boy, you turned out to be a girl, they're totally disappointed. And you grew up as a rejected person. You grew up as a non-existent person. So now you're going to give the money and they're going to grab the money? No way. So we have to go back again and again, peel off the layers and layers of fears they have. Someday, one woman out of desperation may say, yes, I'll try that, let me try. And if she tries, if she's successful, then her neighbors will become very curious and very jealous. And some of them say, maybe I should try too. And that will be the slow snowball effect. It took us 6 years to come to that 50-50 level. Then we saw money going to the family through women brought so much more benefit to the family than the same amount of money going to the family through men. So we started asking questions, why are we giving 50% to men? Because it's so much better to give it to women, because it's so much better for the family. So we changed the rule. We said, let's focus on women. And ever since, we continued to grow more and more with the women. And at 97%, we deliberately stopped. We said, leave some men. Otherwise, we could do 100%. When we came to USA, it's all 100% women. We didn't bother with men. This is still all the 100,000 borrowers we have right now, every one of them is women. We didn't mess around with men. So this is how it works. It's a continuity of that kind of thing. They have showed their relation. What was the second part of the question you had?
Is economic development through microfinance more likely to occur among some populations and not others?
All human beings are the same, absolutely same. 98% of all human beings on the planet is about similarity. Only 2% probably, if it is dissimilarity in shapes, colors, and all of those things. But we blow up the differences, 2% differences, as if they are the identity of human being. That's not what it is. We are the same people. That's why when we came to USA, we sent somebody from Bangladesh to start the branch in USA. He said, I don't know anything about USA. I said, well, I'm sending you to USA not because you're expert in USA. We're sending you because you're expert in Grameen Bank. And you do exactly what you do in the village of Bangladesh, in the inner city of New York City. Don't listen to anybody. This is the most important instruction for you. They will give you so many instructions. No, you can't do it. This is America, you can't do this. Don't listen to anybody. You do exactly what you do in Bangladesh. And don't compromise with any rule, any procedure that we follow. And he did exactly that. And now we do the same thing everywhere. And people were enormously happy. They were telling me right from the beginning, you cannot do group in the United States. Group, 5 women get together. It's impossible. They enjoy it now. Everywhere you go, they will not like to leave their group. No matter you give money or not, I'm a part of my group. I have friends today. I never had any friends. Today I have friends. We can talk to each other. We share our life with each other and so on. We enjoy it so much. So the similarity of you, it's amazed when you visit, it's not far, it's just in Indianapolis, right here. It's amazing thing, something that we do in the villages of Bangladesh with the illiterate women. We do it exactly the same thing here, and people enjoy the same thing. So no other way you can explain the similarity among all human beings, how they react, how the excitement and the questions, all the way they react, exactly the same. So I don't see any differences.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would like to open up the floor for audience questions. We will collect a bunch of 3 or 4 questions, and then Dr. Yunus can answer them in a bunch, and then we'll collect a new bunch, and so on.
You have to remember the question.
If you want to come forward,
the bunch will come. They'll get the next question.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is a microphone here for audience members.
Good evening, Dr. Yunus.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us. One of the first things you said intrigued me. You started a business by going into competition with loan sharks. That would be dangerous in New York and other cities I know of.
We do that in New York City.
Well, what were you, though seriously, were you in any jeopardy when you started competing with the loan sharks?
Yeah, they thought we are loan sharks in New York City, and we have to explain again and again where we are coming from, and they were friends, and it's just a question of getting to know each other. And in Bangladesh, one advantage of Bangladesh about doing work against the loan shark is, in Bangladesh being a Muslim country, loan sharking is not done in a kind of visible way. It's always underhanded thing, because our religion doesn't allow that kind of thing to happen. So people do not admit that they're doing the loan sharking. So it's under the table thing. So they could not accuse us, because the moment you accuse us, you reveal yourself that you're a loan shark. So they go in a very, very complicated, very, what should I say, creative way of spreading rumors. One popular rumor was, this would be a good thing to hear, was that we're lending money, we're actually Christian missionaries. In the name of giving money, soon they will convert you into their religion and so on. And people get very scared. Oh my God, I would rather starve and die rather than be converted to another religion. So we have to go repeatedly that that's not true. This is what you want, and this is, we are the same family, we are the same people. No, then they say, oh, they are appointed by them. They're agents. They're using the local people with the same religion so that they can make it easy and so on. So we have to struggle for that, so overcome that. So it's a rumor war that we have to face, a lot of it. And then we have the religious problems. Being Muslim had created another problem. They started spreading the rumor that if you give loans to women, then the religion is destroyed by the woman, because now she is handling money, she will be showing up in the marketplace and so on. Islam doesn't allow that. Islam should keep you at home, etc., kind of explanation. So we have to struggle with those kind of things, that this is nothing in conflict with Islam. We had to come up with the way that people understand what we are doing. We said, look, if you want to be a good Muslim, you have to follow the footsteps of the Prophet. And everybody understands that, yes, there's no question about that. So I said, remember, when Prophet was a young person, his first job he took is under a woman, a businesswoman. So if you want to be a good Muslim, you have to find a businesswoman to work. And then Prophet worked for her. Later on, he married her. So if you want a good Muslim, you have to marry a businesswoman. And if you can't find a businesswoman in your village, we have lots of businesswomen with us. So it was fun, but message was very clear. Nobody can dispute that. Everybody knew the history of the Prophet and so on and so forth. So people knew that story. So then they said, wow, this makes sense. If Prophet has married a businesswoman, then business and woman is not bad. So we have to follow that. So those are the kind of things. We have to find a way to communicate with people so that they don't see the way other side is depicting you to be. So we have to religious, and also we had the problem with men. Men were opposing us because we are giving loans to women. Even the very husband of the woman who is taking the loan is opposed to us because he feels very insulted. If he always thought money should be controlled by him, how come bank gives the money to his wife and challenges his authority in the family and so on? So we had to go through very elaborate preparations to make sure husband doesn't feel that way, because if husband feels that way, that is the end of the marriage. Because divorce is so easy. All you have to say, I divorce you 3 times, and it's done, finish. Nobody can stop that. So we don't want to keep this heat in the man. Out of anger, he starts saying that, I divorce you, and then finish. So our initial effort was to make sure we train the women. Don't lose the marriage to protect the money. Don't protect the money to lose the marriage, or whatever. So you have to do both. You protect the marriage and protect the money at the same time. So we had to go through elaborate procedures, understanding how you deal with your husband when you bring money. Because first reaction, he grabs the money. This is my money. Who are you to take the money? Give it to me. And she has to surrender. So we get a very elaborate procedure to prepare them. And then we started having simultaneous meeting with the husbands, so that we elaborate all the details of how it is done, why we're doing it. He said, if you don't like it, tell us. We don't want to give it to your wife if you don't like it that way. But once we give it to her, it's her money. You don't touch it. If you touch it, you are violating our rule. But we will not do that. They are tyrant in their own family because he's a man, the other is a woman. But when you have all these poor men gathered around a branch manager of a bank, they are very submissive people. They say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, of course, sir. We will never do that. So they make commitment. Then we have a combined meeting of the wives and the husbands together. Go through the whole thing over and over again. That this is the understanding, that's how we do it. So that message is clear. So that they cannot say, no, they didn't say it this way to us. They said something else. So that everybody hears the same message, same thing, and we follow. Still, the first year is a very difficult year. So we have to keep very close eyes on them to make sure nothing. Once the first year is done, we have overcome the problem. Now husband becomes supportive because he sees the income is coming up and the family condition is improving. He becomes a supporter of the whole thing rather than opposing him. Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions?
There's one over here, I think.
Hello.
Thank you so much again for coming
Thank
and
you.
speaking with us. I was wondering, how do you envision the education system kind of, I guess, reforms to develop or facilitate this mindset of the real man that you talk about? And how can we do this, especially at a young age, so kind of at like the primary school level?
The whole idea of education is not just a primary or something. It just starts in the family. How the parents are talking to the children, that's the first lesson. And if the parents keep encouraging the young people that what will be the life all about, what kind of life will be, what kind of world there is waiting for him, and so on. What are the businesses like? What do the business do? The business to make money, business to solve problems, and so on and so forth. This goes into their head. And then the education, formal education begins. In formal education also, yes, there are two kinds of businesses. One is this, one is that, and you give examples and so on. You keep learning. Then asking yourself the question, what am I going to do? Do I take a job in a money-making business, or do I take a job in a problem-solving business, and so on? Those questions comes. At the same time, you talk about, am I a job seeker or am I an entrepreneur? So those questions has been planted right there. What would you be? Would you rather work for somebody, or you would like to do something on your own, and so on? If you want to do something on your own, these are the first ways you can do. If you want to work for somebody, this is the way you can do. So that young people are prepared for this. And then as they grow up, I would say that in the education system, there should be something that the young people should be, in each class they will be discussing what kind of world that we would like to build. What will be the features of that world that we all love. So have an exercise, and each one drawing up, this is the feature, this is the kind of world that we want, and so on and so on. And share with each other, so on. Debate whether this is a good idea, this is a better idea. And have a combined one, this is the kind of world that we want to. The fact that we do that in class after class, just because we exercise that, our politics will be different, our attitude will be different, because we know what kind of world we want. We will not be, today we are drifting from here to here, we don't know, we never had any idea. Okay, maybe this is good because he says it's good, because we have not done it. We never exercised it. We never thought about it, and that's it. And I keep reminding that as a young person, we should be having absolute freedom of imagination. Imagine as wild as you can be, what kind of world you want. If you imagine that world, it will happen. If you don't imagine, it will never happen. So that's the power of imagination that young people have to have.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll collect a bunch of questions in a group because we're almost running out of time. So if you can ask quickly your question.
Okay.
Good.
This is good. Dr. Yunus, thank you for being with us tonight. Your words have been really insightful. So my question is one of long-term sustainability of some of the social businesses you mentioned in your book, A World of Three Zeros. Specifically, some of them were focusing on very localized goods. One, for instance, in Indonesia, where wives of fishermen would produce a very popular fish-based Indonesian snack, and another in Bangladesh, where telephone ladies would provide phone services. That specific service is no longer needed, as a lot of, in that region, cell phone use has become more prominent. So my question is, what do social businesses do once a problem is solved or moves past the point of needing a social business to support it? In other words, is every social business able to expand continuously, or are there production limits or market limits to that?
We'll collect some more questions.
Thank you, Dr. Yunus. My question is to do with looking at the extractive industry and where it fits in with your message of the 3 zeros. So it does fit the first two of the three requirements of what a social business need to do. Obviously, a social business has to be fixing a problem. The extractive industry is one that can create jobs, can get rid of poverty. But for someone like me who comes from a community that is resource-rich, we also feel that we need our chance to use our resources to help the people around us. Because historically, this is an industry which has benefited the capitalistic investors. But I think the question now comes, what is your opinion when we look at where the extractive industry meets the conversation about zero carbon emissions? Because it is an industry which directly interacts with degrading the environment, affecting it, but it's also an industry that can knock off poverty and also create employment. Thank you.
Yeah, let me answer this too quickly before I forget. First of all, the extractive industry is a very interesting question. And I've always been saying the best thing to happen for extractive industry is to have a social business, because this is the most appropriate type of business that social business could do, because it belongs to the soil. It's a mining, extractive industry, and so on. You're taking it and make lots of money out of it, lots of corruption around it, and people around it are not involved in it at all, or the nation who are selling off their mineral resources, they don't get much. So I said this is the best way to protect all the aspects by creating a social business. So governments, instead of asking the big businesses to come and do the extractive industry, they should be creating their social businesses and so on, so that all the things remain there rather than we destroy the environment, because there are 7 principles of social business. One of the things is to protect the planet. And so you have to protect the planet before you do anything else in the extractive industry, and making sure the benefits of whatever is happening it will be shared by the people who are in this country or whatever they are people. So that's one way to look at the extractive industry rather than the traditional way that we have been doing. And on the other one, the first one about the question is...
She said, what happens to the social business when the problem is
solved?
solved?
It's a business is an ongoing thing. It's a transformative. It's not something you started, like you mentioned about the telephone lady. She sells the service of the telephone in the villages and make money. Now everybody has telephone. So that business goes. What do you do next with the telephone? So you come with the next telephone services that you want to create. Just because one business failed doesn't mean you already have business experience, and that's the biggest thing you accumulated, and it's a technology-oriented business. So next one is a technology-oriented business for you. You can sell things, you can have the internet services, because most of the telephone are now 4G telephones. You have lots of opening at that. When you first brought it didn't have as much capacity that you have right now. Whole Bangladesh was filled with what we call telephone ladies, selling telephone service in the villages, because nobody had telephone. Now everybody has telephone. And Bangladesh has an intensive number of telephones and everybody else. So now you go to the second stage of the telephone service and so on. So this is how the business is run. One business cannot survive all the developments that take place in the business world.
So I think we will, if you have a few more minutes, we'll do 2 more questions
Okay,
only. I'm sorry we cannot accommodate everyone, but we'll take 2 more questions, quick questions for Dr. Yunus.
Yeah.
Quick question. Thank you for being here. I was really struck by your fundamental belief in all people, especially those who the world might not traditionally see it. And so I was wondering, where does this kind of contrarian view come from in your own life? And how would you encourage us to fortify it within our own lives as we go forwards to be agents of change in our communities?
And 1 more question, and then we'll let him answer.
Thank you, Dr. Yunus, and thank you for a great talk, and eating vegetable is great. Thanks. So I got a quick question. How do you suggest encouraging impoverished people get involved with your organizations and consistently and duplicate this? That's my question.
About the people, what was the first question again?
Like, where does your belief in...
Belief, yeah. I work with them, and I felt that, yes, what happens in this village, same thing will happen in the next village. So I felt comfortable with that. I didn't see any problem with that. And it spread everywhere. And then it spread to other countries. I feel the same way, because they go through the same problems. When we say that poverty is one kind in Bangladesh, another kind, it's not that. It's the same thing. I mentioned to you earlier in my presentation, I was saying that it's like poor people are like bonsai people, because there's nothing wrong with their seed. Simply society didn't give them the space. So I'm trying to provide that space. Everything I'm doing is just to provide that space so that she and he can come out themselves. I'm not pushing them to do anything. I'm saying, here's the space. If you want to, you can go up. And that's so it's the same thing. It's whether you are in Nicaragua or you're in Botswana or in Bangladesh, doesn't matter. Or in Jackson Heights, New York, same thing. Or Indianapolis, same problem.
And his next question was, how do you get impoverished people to associate with you for a long time and develop their lives over the longer term?
That's why institution building is very important. And when I said charity is a wonderful idea, but the charity doesn't create an institution, a sustainable institution. That's the weakness of the charity part. You always depend on somebody else's gift to you and support to you to provide the money and so on. So it remains uncertain. So you cannot plan anything because you don't know whether next year we'll have the same money or as much money or more money, less money. You don't know. You cannot plan anything. So you become uncertain about the action. You cannot plan ahead. But if you're sustainable, you are on. It grows. It's like a seed. It keeps on growing. It's new leaves come and further new leaves, branches, and so on and so forth. It has this organic growth by itself. And that's the advantage of having organic things and having. That's where if you create institutions, all these things falls in place. Otherwise, you remain dependent. Somebody will take care of you. That's why even I was mentioning welfare repeatedly because this is an issue that I struggle with a lot. Saying that welfare is a very important thing to do because people need to be supported in times of their emergency, in times of their crisis. But that doesn't mean they have to live all their life in welfare. So people who design welfare, they have to come up with ideas how to bring people in under welfare and make sure how to help them to get out of welfare. That piece absolutely is missing. People, the politicians or designers of this program, so eager to put them in, as if putting in solves the problem. It didn't solve the problem. It was a temporary phase. People are going through. You have helped them. Now you build the system so that they can come out and feel better and they become full human being. Inside you're not full human being because you are waiting for somebody to feed you. Being fed by somebody else is not being a full human being. Human being, as I said, is a creative being. He and she enjoys being creative and problem solver. You have taken away the fundamental right of being human being by putting in their welfare. So find ways how to get them out. And that's what the work will do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would really... And it's just unfortunate that we're out of time because we have had a very fascinating conversation. I would really like to thank Dr. Yunus, Ray Offenheiser, our wonderful students, and of course all of you for being so active and engaged in this whole discussion. And we hope to take it forward within our own communities, as Dr. Yunus would recommend. So thank you all, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. We have to get.
Will you take some photos? Oh, that would be wonderful.